Hi, I'm Brian Gustin. I've been a certified prosthetist for 33 years. Have owned and operated a multi-facility O&P practice in Northeast Wisconsin for 18 years, and also had another facility over in the Minneapolis region with a partner. I sold both of those operations in 2006, and since then have been doing nothing but consulting work in the orthotic and prosthetic space. And over that period of time and throughout my practicing years, was very active inside of AOPA and serving on the coding committee. And I'm now the senior member of the AOPA Coding Committee and am one of the co-presenters for the AOPA Coding and Billing Seminar. So I've had many, many years of dealing with policy and coding issues, and have applied those in my own practice and then used those to this day in a lot of the consulting work that I do, not only with O&P operators, but with insurance companies, with fraud and abuse investigators, with private equity and venture capital groups that are looking to get into O&P, and helping all of those entities understand how O&P operators generate revenue through the use of these codes and the policies that they need to be aware of in order to remain in compliance. Okay, of course you can bill for 3D printed covers. The way a cover is fabricated is immaterial to whether you can use the code or not. You just have to follow the exact verbiage of the code that you're using, and in this case, the code simply says custom shaped. And if we look at the code descriptor for 5704, custom shaped protective cover below knee, or 5705, custom shaped protective cover above knee. So you just have to make sure that it's custom shaped, that it's protective, and that it's for above the knee or below the knee. The unique cover is considered protective simply because it goes around the working aspect of the knee and the pylon, and the nature of the material is protective in that it encases all of that. AOPA makes a clear case, if you will, that goes around a C-leg. CMS has given AOPA an opinion that the appropriate code for that particular product is the 5705, and it's simply a clear shell that goes around a C-leg. So there's some precedent out there of another type of product that goes around the working components of the knee using the code 5705. Scenarios surrounding the use of these codes for a 3D printed cover, and everybody seems to be overly concerned with using new products using existing codes. What everybody has to remember is that when you submit a code, you're not submitting a product along with that code. You're submitting an L code with a specific verbiage, and who's ever looking at that claim has no idea what product you could be using with that particular code. So as long as your code meets the definition of the verbiage of the code, as well as the any policies that are in the LCD or in the policy article, you're fine to use whatever product you want to use with any particular code. It's not going to trigger an audit. This is a great question and a perfect example of where you can use Medicare's own policy against them. The term unusually harsh is rather ambiguous. and undefined. And Medicare does that on purpose to allow them a wide latitude in adjudicating certain claims. But what you have to also understand is the policy that Medicare writes, whether it's in the LCD or in the policy article, is essentially a contract. And within contract law, any ambiguities are construed against the party that wrote the contract, in this case, Medicare. So exploit the use of unusually harsh by documenting any kind of environmental condition that you're using this cover and or a skin material for. And if you get audited on it, your argument is because it is undefined in policy, what is an unusually harsh, anything you come up with has to be allowed because they have not defined that ambiguity in the policy. So use their own words against them should you need to if you ever get audited. In unusually harsh environmental conditions, one of the few medically necessary conditions that certainly would apply to this is if you have a patient who is incontinent. And you need to protect the working components of the prosthesis, especially if for some reason you have some kind of electronic components onto the prosthesis. You need to protect that from the incontinence factor there, and it's a hygiene issue. But aside from that medically necessary condition, other situations would be maybe you're dealing with a farmer, a dairy farmer, let's say, who's still working on the farm but is a Medicare beneficiary, and they're around a lot of wet areas in their day-to-day chores of dairy farming. So that's or somebody's got a part-time job working at a car wash. Things of that nature, and that's where you have to do a good job of doing evaluation with your patient to understand what their needs are and where will they be using a prosthesis as well, and keep all of these policy things in the back of your head as you're doing your evaluation so that you can meet some of these criteria. Everybody's under the impression today, because of a new policy directive that came out, that you cannot use a cover and a skin together on the same patient. In fact, you can. However, they have placed these parameters around the documentation that you have to show that there are these unusually harsh environmental conditions. So document what the conditions are that the patient is going to be using the prosthesis in, and why you need to use the skin covering as well as the cover itself, and you should be fine. But there is nothing in policy that says you cannot combine a skin with a cover. In fact, it's quite impossible to use a skin without a cover. Standard reimbursements are, whatever you're getting paid for the L57, 04, 05 codes presently, as well as the 59, 62, and 64 codes for the skins. So check your state fee schedule amounts for whatever those fees are. Well, indeed, you can bill additional charges for the unique cover if you so desire. However, the mechanism to be able to do that is you would have to bill it as an unassigned claim, and then you would want to have the patient sign an ABN and explain to them why the claim would be denied as not medically necessary. But you can charge more for certain services as long as you inform the patient and you do it as a non-assigned claim. Now, in order to do it as a non-assigned claim, you must be a non-participating provider with Medicare. If you're a participating provider with Medicare, what you have done is you've told Medicare for the entire year that you will take assignment on every single claim, right? So here's a situation why you would not want to be a participating provider, to give you the ability to pick and choose which claims you take on assignment and which ones you would do as non-assigned claims.